It's time for the Sports Not Interview. Newsmakers and record breakers from around the world of sports. Join us in conversation. The latest in sports talk from the editors at sportsnot.com. And now, the Sports Not Interview.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sports Not Interview brought to you by sportsnot.com. Please head over to our website for all of your sporting needs, whether that's NFL, NBA, MLB. We've got you covered on all of those fronts and so much more. I am your host, Evan Groat, and I'll be guiding you through this brand new episode of the show. And we're going to stay with our topic that we've been covering for several weeks now. That's the NFL. We all know the NFL is king. And there's a really interesting story that's brewing up in New England with the Patriots. That's right, the 3-2 New England Patriots, fresh off their upset win of a division rival. The previously undefeated Buffalo Bills, no longer undefeated. And I know we're a long ways from the season being over. We're only heading into week 6. But if the season did end today, the Patriots would find themselves in the playoffs. They currently hold the 7th seed in the AFC playoff picture. And, you know, if you look at the schedule, things are definitely lining up for them. A lot of favorable matchups coming up. In fact, their next 6 games, they will face the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons, the Bucks, and then the winless New York Jets. Winless as of right now. Who knows what they do in the next couple of weeks. So definitely an opportunity for the Patriots to kind of separate themselves a little bit and even put a little bit of pressure on the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East division race. Now, a big part of their success, of course, we all know, is their second-year quarterback, Drake Maye, who has really started to blossom and develop in year 2. And I got some stats here for you in case you don't already know. He is 5th in passing yards in the NFL with over 1,200 yards passing. He is 2nd in completion percentage, 6th in passer rating, and he just went toe-to-toe with last year's MVP and this year's frontrunner for MVP, Josh Allen, at Highmark Stadium in prime time. So very, very impressive start to the season by Drake Maye. And of course, we all know Mike Vrabel. He's in his first year as head coach of the Patriots, and obviously his influence has been instrumental in what they're trying to do. He is a no-nonsense kind of guy. We all know he was a former linebacker with the team, and a guy that's had some success as a head coach, guiding the Tennessee Titans to the AFC Championship with Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback. Not exactly elite by any means as all. So we're kind of seeing things all come together for New England right now. I mentioned the schedule. It looks very favorable. So we'll see if they could take advantage of that and find themselves in the playoff picture towards the end of the season. Now, we're going to be joined by our guest here in just a moment. That is going to be Tom Carroll, who covers the Patriots for WEEI in Boston. And some of the things we're going to talk to Tom about, we're going to ask him about Drake Maye's development. I want to ask him a little bit about the influence that he's seen from longtime offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. Say what you will about him as a head coach. We know he's had the 2 failed stints in Denver and then in Las Vegas, but he's had a lot of success as a play caller in the league, particularly with the Super Bowl and during some of those Super Bowl runs. He's back now, and he's been a big part of what we've seen, from Drake Maye, and I think he's been a good mentor for him. But we'll ask Tom about some of that, and we're also going to ask Tom about, how the locker room is buying into the influence of new head coach Mike Vrabel, and so much more. So you don't want to miss that conversation. But I am going to step aside right now, get to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by our guest, Tom Carroll from WEEI in Boston. Don't go anywhere. Coming right up. And welcome to the Sports Not Interview. I am your host, Evan Groat, and today we're joined by Tom Carroll, who covers the New England Patriots for WEEI in Boston. And that is our topic of discussion today, the New England Patriots, fresh off their big win over division rival, the Buffalo Bills. And Tom, first of all, thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time today. And I got to tell you, I live here in Buffalo, and it's no easy task to go into Highmark Stadium in prime time and beat Buffalo Bills. It was a whiteout. They had all the fans in the stands were wearing white. It was something that was hyped up all over town all week long. So the fan base was excited, but New England went in there and got the job done. And so that's where I really want to begin our conversation. do you get the sense that this is the type of win? And I know that you're around the team, you're in the facilities. Do you get the sense that this is the type of win that could really be the catalyst and jumpstart this team's season, get things going in the right direction, and possibly even rattle off a few wins here in a row?
I do. I really feel like this is the type of win that sort of sends a team in the right direction. I feel like you saw wins like this for the Lions in recent years when they started to make their ascendance. Like when a bad team becomes a good team, they have these types of wins that sort of set things off. And I feel like Sunday was that for New England. And Drake Maye is showing that he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So when you have a guy like that playing like that in a game like that, you know that you're in a good position moving forward. So you hope that you can build on that as you take on a lesser opponent here in week 6 down in New Orleans. So that's going to be the real test here to see if this was a team that just pulled something out of a hat or if this is going to be the norm moving forward, if they can really take care of business against the Saints here on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Has to be a huge confidence builder. You mentioned the young quarterback, Drake Maye. Let's just continue talking about him while we're here. You know, he went toe-to-toe with last year's MVP, Josh Allen. He looked phenomenal in the game. Now, I do think, you know, I'm hearing people talk about him as, you know, moving his way up into the ranks, maybe one of the elite quarterbacks in the league. I need to see it a little bit more this year, maybe a little bit more consistency before, you know, I'd like to have that conversation. But what can you tell us about the development and what you've seen from him in year 2?
I mean, look, this is a what have you done for me lately type of league, right? And through 5 weeks, what he has done is looked like one of the more versatile players at the position in the entire league. And last year, the big issue with Drake Maye is that he turned the ball over once or twice a game, every single game. And he hasn't done that with Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. And I really feel like they have prioritized putting him in positions to have decisions that are sort of obvious, right? And when those obvious decisions aren't there for him, he then has the ability to go out and be a playmaker and use his athleticism. So it's that he has a system in place and he has adults in the room around him to create a system that's going to allow him to succeed that I think is really taking him to the next level. He's one of those guys that has elite athleticism. He just needed everything to kind of round into form around him so he could really show the talent that he truly has.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about Drake Maye is he still doesn't have any, you know, the weaponry around him. It's okay. I mean, Stephon Diggs, he's on the back nine of his career, coming off the ACL. He doesn't really have an elite receiver, I guess you could say, around him. So I think as they continue to build around him, he's going to take off. And so I'm excited to see that for him. And I'm glad you brought up Josh McDaniels as well, because I think some people find it, I guess, laughable, I guess, or a little bit comical that he's back in New England, right? After another failed stint as a head coach with the Raiders. But say what you want about him as a head coach. The guy can call plays. He knows how to call an offense. We've seen that over the years. Yes, he did have Tom Brady for all those years, but we saw what he did with a young quarterback in Mac Jones as well. And so I want to ask you about the influence that Josh McDaniels is having on Drake Maye and the benefit for Maye of having a mentor like McDaniels.
Yeah, look, I mean, you mentioned it. He was able to make Mac Jones look like a 10-win starting quarterback in the NFL. And yes, he's looked good in San Francisco this season, but that's within the confines of the Kyle Shanahan system, and everyone looks good in the confines of the Kyle Shanahan system. So, yeah, Josh McDaniels has done wonders for Drake Maye so far. I know there's been some in the Boston media that are trying to give Vrabel more credit for that. They pointed to some of his comments early in the year, and then in week 2, there was a certain game plan in place that wasn't necessarily a classic McDaniels style game. But I look at what's happened since that week 2 win and how that offense has looked and how they've operated, and I've been wholly impressed. I mean, even in that Steelers loss, the Patriots were in a position to win that game on multiple occasions. And I just believe that McDaniels, in his time off from football, was able to kind of go out and learn from McVay and learn from Shanahan and go kind of study these guys and go look at the college game. And he's a really smart dude. He's a really good offensive coordinator. He was for a really long time. And I know people like to say, oh, it was Tom Brady. It was Tom Brady. Agreed. Tom Brady is amazing. I'm sure you know that as a guy that lives in Buffalo very well. But McDaniels had to keep up with Brady. If Brady didn't want McDaniels around, or if he didn't feel like he was helping him, he would have been gone a long time ago. And when O'Brien left for the Penn State job, guess who Tom Brady wanted back in New England? Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
So I think that speaks a lot to his acumen and what guys feel like he can bring to the room. And I think a season that gets lost for McDaniels is that one he had with Cam Newton, because the Patriots weren't good that year. I think they won something like 7 games. But the fact that they were able to win 7 games with a Cam Newton that's arm basically didn't work anymore speaks a lot to how McDaniels can game plan and use what he has and get the most out of the guys that he has. I mean, as a guy that follows the Bills closely, I'm sure you remember Cam Newton almost stole a game from the Bills later in that season. So I think he's a really good offensive coordinator. I hope that he feels content with being an offensive coordinator here for a really long time. The head coaching thing hasn't worked out the 2 times he's tried it. Maybe that was being a victim of the organizations he was joining. Mm-hmm. But look, dude, you're a really good OC. Just be an OC. Like, they're 2 different jobs. They're totally different muscles that you're using. So I personally think McDaniels is going to continue to help Maye reach new heights here. And I think the sky's the limit for the kid.
Yeah, and I think one of the big benefits for Drake Maye is that I don't know if McDaniels will be that sought after to be another head coach, right? And as long as Vrabel is the head coach and the offense is clicking, you would think that McDaniels would stay in that position, right? Be content and stay in that position. And so I think the continuity, because we always hear about new coordinators, and that can kind of stunt the development or stunt an offense. But I don't think that'll be something that the Patriots will have to deal with. We'll have to see how that plays out. All right, we're going to step aside real quick, get to a break. And when we return, we're going to continue this conversation on the New England Patriots with our guest, Tom Carroll from WEEI in Boston. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. Welcome back to the Sports Night interview. Evan Groat here, your host. We're joined by our guest, Tom Carroll from Boston WEEI, and we're talking New England Patriots football here. Now, we just discussed the development of Drake Maye and the influence of offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels on Maye's development. You mentioned Mike Vrabel. Some people are saying maybe it's more about Vrabel. So I want to ask you about his influence on this team. We all know former player himself, linebacker, hard-nosed, tough guy. Are you seeing the players buy into his style of coaching, and are you seeing his influence on his players on the field?
I feel like Vrabel's influence on this organization was evident from the day he took the job, and it was a night and day thing from when Jerod Mayo was here. Like, Jerod Mayo didn't know what he was doing. He was lost, and the stories of that guy and the less than a year he was in on the job are endless for how bad it was. So from the jump, Vrabel was, as I mentioned, an adult in the room, setting a culture in place to say, hey, this is how we do things. Let's not mess around here. When we're in the building, we're here to work. And when we're out of the building, I'm going to treat you like a human being and make sure that you're back to your family at a reasonable time and all that good stuff. And I think guys really appreciate the fact that Vrabel treats them like human beings. And that's not something that was common for 20 plus years here in New England. And look, it worked for a long time until it didn't. Vrabel is a guy that cares about the whole approach. It's not just the on the field thing. It's the off the field. It's having your mind and body right. And I think that has worked tremendously for this team, on top of the fact that he has a really strong Rolodex around the league to bring in a coaching staff of guys that know what they're doing. And I think he was really smart about who he brought in where at these different position groups. And that was another thing that was a huge problem with Jerod Mayo. he had no coaching Rolodex. So when Belichick left and all the guys that were attached to Belichick left, and you can talk about Matt Patricia and all the other guys and say they weren't that good anyways, but Mayo was left with nothing. And he kind of replaced it with nothing. I mean, Alex Van Pelt was an offensive coordinator, a guy that you guys know from Buffalo.
Yep.
He had never really been a play caller at the NFL level. And then he was handed a situation where it was a rookie quarterback and a guy in Jacoby Brissett who they were trying to say he needs to be the starter. He needs to be the starter. And you have Drake Maye and all that talent breathing down his neck, and a guy in Alex Van Pelt trying to manage that situation. And it just didn't work out. So Vrabel coming in from the jump just makes everything better. And I think he was also really smart in teaming up with Elliott Wolf and bringing in Ryan Cowden to be sort of the heads of that front office and say, we can't win with the way the roster is right now. And they did a really good job of plugging holes in free agency, spending money in a smart way, bringing in a guy like Milton Williams and Robert Spillane and obviously Stephon Diggs and Morgan Moses on the offensive side of the football on the right tackle spot, and then drafting Will Campbell, short arms and all, on the left side, and he's looked good so far. So it's been sort of a holistic approach here for Vrabel, and I've been really impressed. And in the short term here, it's working.
Yeah, I think the Patriots did an excellent job of going out there and getting Vrabel. I think he was the best hire in this, most recent coaching hiring cycle. Now, we spent some time talking about Drake Maye, but outside the young quarterback, is there a particular player or position group that you think has exceeded your expectations for what you thought they would do this season?
Yeah, I think that defensive line, I mentioned it, Milton Williams and the guy right next to him, Christian Barmore, have been fantastic. And I for my money, and I don't study defensive lines all that closely, but I can't imagine there's that many interior D lineman combos in the NFL better than Milton Williams and Christian Barmore right now. Maybe the guys down in Philly, but I mean, these guys are playing at an extremely high level. Milton Williams was a guy that only got something like 40%, 50% of the snaps when he was with Philly this past year when they won the Super Bowl. So he was able to come up here and be kind of given free reign. Like, hey, this is your D line now. And he's taken the ball and run with it. He's looked fantastic. And it's helped unlock Christian Barmore, who dealt with blood clots most of last year, kind of derailed his season. Coming out of 2023, that guy was inarguably the best player on the Patriots. So for him to be close to 100% of what he was in 23 next to a guy that might be better than him, it's been a huge, huge advantage for this team, both in the pass rush and in run defense. It's been a real revelation for this team so far.
Nice. And so we'll wrap it up here with this one. The Patriots currently sit 3-2. They do hold the 7th seed in the AFC right now if the playoffs were to start today, which they don't. Obviously, we're only in week 6. But we talked about the schedule. There's a chance for them to a lot of winnable games coming up. We talked about the Saints, Titans, Browns, and then the Falcons, I believe, are the next 4 games for them, followed by the Buccaneers, and then I believe the Jets as well, another winnable game. So the schedule definitely looks favorable to them. If they take care of business, are you expecting this team to be a playoff team?
Yeah, I always thought they were going to be a fringe playoff team, just how the schedule was set up before the season and what they did in the offseason in making over the coaching room and bringing in all that talent in free agency. I always thought that they were going to be on the fringe there. Yeah. And now how the season has shaken out, it's looking like if they don't make the playoffs, it's kind of a disappointment at this point, given the bad teams that they're playing the rest of the year. And some of these games that were thought to be sort of scheduled losses are now looking really winnable. A game like the Ravens late in the year, they've looked like a mess. A game like the Bengals, I mean, unless Joe Flacco can come in and kind of wake that team up, which I don't really have a ton of confidence in him doing, that now feels like a winnable game. The only game that really feels like a schedule loss at this point is Tampa Bay. Everything else feels extremely winnable. Now, I'm not saying that the Patriots are going to only lose one game remaining this year. They're probably going to play Buffalo later in the year again, and Buffalo is going to, come out and feel a certain type of way given what happened this past Sunday. Yeah. They're going to lose games. They're going to probably lose some games that they shouldn't, but I think they're going to win way more of them than they're going to lose down the stretch here, and they're going to be really in the mix here for the AFC East title.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to see how this all plays out. I know Patriots fans are excited about this new start here under this new era with Mike Vrabel and young quarterback Drake Maye. Tom Carroll, thank you so much. Go out there, follow his work. Does a great job for WEEI. And Tom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.